Harrier, VTOL, lots of work. Welcome to part 3 of the VTOL Harrier build, guys. This has been the hardest project I've ever worked on. I've still got a ton of work to do. Let's crack on with it, shall we? Welcome to RCHeliChekUK. Here we are again then. Like I say, part 3 of the Harrier build. Those of you that have been following me will know that there are two more Harrier videos. You'll find them in a playlist that I created not long ago. But I've had a couple of people ask me why the Harrier, what made me want to do the Harrier. I've been a firm lover of the Harrier since I was a kid, okay, since going to air shows and whatnot. The real noise of it, the power from it and all that kind of stuff. You'll have to excuse the flickering of the lights, guys. It's the fluorescent lighting. I've tried adjusting the camera and it won't do anything. I can't do it, so just bear with me on that one. Yeah, why the Harrier? Like I say, I've been a firm fan of the Harrier for a long time, and I've always wanted to build a Harrier, and it's always been one that I've wanted to have that could hover. And when the opportunity came up for me to build this, I took it straight away. It's just, I don't know, there's just something about it. It's a fascinating aircraft. The way that it looks beats anything that flies vertically these days. Not mentioning no names, but as far as I'm concerned, this is still far superior to the most modern vertical lift fighter, shall we say. But yeah, that's just the reason why I'm doing it, because like it's an aircraft that I've always wanted to build. Where am I going from here? Wow, that is a big question, and one that I'm going to answer for you now. I've liked helicopters for a while. I've been flying scale helicopters. I've got scale warbirds of aircraft as well, okay. Helicopters aren't the only thing that I fly. I fly jets, I fly warbirds. But since my recent transition in the last few years to helicopters, I've found when I do fly my jets, I'm enjoying it more. My G91, you've probably seen a video on that. I love flying that aircraft. But this, not this only project itself, but this subject of vertical VTOL and short takeoff and landing models has really got me buzzing. And after this is built, I've got one of 3 ways I'm going. You can actually build this 20% bigger, which powers with a, I think it's a 110 fan. That's one option. Option 2 is the F-35. Ironically, the aircraft that I was just mentioning without mentioning as being like this far superior to it. There is a model of that I'm thinking of building. Or the other option is to concentrate on this and actually get that aircraft to take off vertically and transition to forward flight, back to hovering and landing again. Now the biggest problem with that is not just the whole transition part, but it's the power and the batteries. You're going to be restricted to about 2.5 minutes of flying time with something like this. Probably even less if you've been hovering for sort of like 30 seconds, because you're going to be sitting on virtually maximum thrust to keep the aircraft in the air. So when you've got flying to do with it as well, you're not going to have that much time. So it's going to be a balance. You've not only got that, you've got the 3 points of the triangle. Those are you're into EDF, you're going to know what I'm on about. Thrust, efficiency and sound. You can't have all 3. You can only have 2 of them 3. It's never been possible to have a motor with a fan with maximum thrust, awesome sound and excellent efficiency. It's just impossible. We've tried it, we've tested it with no end of different fans here at the club. It just can't be done. There has not been one single fan developed that produces the ultimate sound, the ultimate thrust, and the ultimate efficiency. You can only get 2 of the 3. So this, it's going to be a nightmare when it comes to those 3 factors. Yes, I've got the sound, as you heard on the previous video, it was loud. But it's a really powerful fan. It pushes out 4.5 kilos, this 90mm fan, and it's going to suck the electricity out of the electric box really quickly. These 4 fans that are on the outside of the aircraft, they're going to be powered by either a 3-cell or a 4-cell battery. Now they recommend a 3-cell 4000. 4 of these fans, 2 7000 kV 30mm fans, 2 5000 kV 50mm fans, they're going to be sucking electric out the lightning box really quickly. So it's going to be an interesting subject, this, but it's one I'm going to continue to pursue after I've built this and test flown this Harrier. Anyway, enough of the boring crap. We've got a lot of work to do on this today. It's mainly, unfortunately, more wiring, soldering, all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to have you running normal time when I'm doing that. I'll be putting you on time-lapse mode like I did with the last video. But what I've got to do, I've literally got to try and reduce the amount of wire that I've got inside here to save weight, okay? I've just realised I've still got my sunglasses on and I'm inside. What a pillock. But yeah, I need to try and reduce as much weight as possible. I also want to try today to finish wiring up the wing, and then if I can get the wing all wired up, I want to try and bolt it to the fuselage, because it is held on by 2, but you've got 2 pins that go in the front here and a single wing bolt at the back that holds it on. I do want to try and get it all connected up with the wing on, and I want to drop the retracts, and I want to get it to sit with weight on it so that the compression on the springs and the oleos is down to its maximum, and then that way then I can take the measurement of the 2 outer retracts, because they're just on rods that haven't been cut to length yet. So I need to get the aircraft to sit down on its maximum compression, and I need to then make sure that these 2 outer wing wheels are dropped down so I can cut and get the length of them right, so the Harrier sits perfectly down, and the wheels, both wheels, I've nearly hit that, I just didn't see that, I nearly broke it. So the Harrier sat perfectly with all 4 wheels on the deck. 2, 3, 4, 5 wheels on the deck. So that's another thing that I want to aim for today. It's not that early in the morning, it's about 10:30 in the morning. I'm going to be here until I get at least all of that done. It'll be another stage further towards getting this aircraft flown. Also, one of the other things that I need to be doing, I've decided through the conversation that I had with another fellow club member that uses the KK2 build to build quads, I'm going to build a mule, which is basically a cross with 4 motors on, 4 ESCs, but a 5th motor that will act as the fan. And I've got to get that all working with the KK2 board and the receiver, so that I've got all 5 motors, because you'll have the 4 on the mule and you'll have the 5th one which will be acting as the fan. I've got to get them all to throttle up together. The physics of it is pretty easy, but the actual wiring side of it and programming it all, it's going to be a logistical nightmare. So that's going to be another thing I'll do. Whether I'll do that today or what, I don't know. But I need to build that as well and start getting all that tested. Once I've got that fathomed out and everything's working how it should be, it's literally just a transfer of then carbon copying it to the Harrier, and then it should be just tweaking it with all the fans. Let's crack on with the video, guys. I've got a lot to do. See you in a bit. Right, first job I'm doing today is these servos that operate the nozzles inside here. I've got normal lengths of servo cable on them, but what I want to try and do, because these are going to be linked to the flaps via a Y lead, I want to shorten the cable on this servo, because the receiver is going to be sat here. I want to shorten the cable on this servo and shorten the cable on this one, but I'm going to link them both together and solder them onto one plug. So basically one plug will be operating both the servos, and then I'm going to get a Y lead. This is just like a normal Y lead, but what I'm going to do to that, I'm going to make this smaller and as light as possible. And I've already started with this one. You can see the outer casings that are on these. I don't know if you can see it or not. I've cut the outer casings off this one already, so it's just revealing the plugs with the pins on. I'm then going to cut the cables about here, and then I'm going to resolder them to this plug without all this on, so it'll be about literally that long. And then what will happen then, because these two servos will be linked to one plug, I will connect the nozzles to this servo, the nozzle to this plug, and then this plug on the other Y lead, will go to the flaps on the port side wing. So effectively what you've got, port nozzles and port flap will be operated together, and then the starboard nozzles and the starboard flap will be operated together via a Y lead, which then goes into two separate channels. Reason it's going to go into two separate channels, because if you remember on one of the videos I mentioned that the servos are working like ailerons, they're opposite each other because they're in the same positions. I've got to reverse one of them, so it'll be the same with the flap as well. So what I'm doing is reducing the amount of wiring, but then I'll put the nozzles and the flaps into two separate channels, and that way then I can reverse one of them. It'll be this side here that will need reversing, so the starboard side will need to be reversed, as will the nozzle, as will the flap on the wing. So yeah, that's the first process, guys. I'm going to stick you into lapsy-timey mode for that bit. There we have it, guys. That's the first shortened Y lead. That's the normal length, and that's what I've just created. Okay, and you should have seen it. Basically pulled the pins out and then soldered the two cables to the plug, right, and 5 grams for that one, 2 grams. I've saved 3 grams of weight. Not a lot, but altogether it's going to make a hell of a difference. I'm going to make 4 of these now. I'm not going to bother showing you that, so I'll turn the camera off, make the other 4 off, and then I'll come back to you in a bit. See you in a bit, guys. Okay, it took me an hour and 20 minutes to make those, but there we go, guys. 2 micro mini Y leads. Now, one's green, one's red. Do any of you know the significance between red and green? If you do, leave it in the comments below. Right, now the next thing I need to do is basically I want to do the wiring on these servos. So I'm glad now I didn't glue these in, because I'm going to need to take these out. Effectively, like I say, the receiver is going to be sat here, so that'll be going into one channel. So I now need to make the cable on this servo and this servo a lot less, and into one plug, so that they can connect to the one of these plugs on this Y lead, and then I'll do the same with the other side. So timey-lapsey, mody-ody. there we go. Two become one, effectively. Again, red, and then what's going to happen is these two servos, which will be operating the nozzles, will go into one plug, click, and then that plug there, the spare one, that is what the flaps are going to go into. So now I've got two nozzle servos and the flaps all working from one. I have just tested it, they're all working. Through that, they're all working. So I've lost, basically doing this, if I can get it all up in one go, I've removed all of that by doing that. That is everything that I've removed, and that, even that, I mean, it's not heavy, but I can feel there's weight in there. Hold on, let me have a look. Let's just see. We know that we'd lost a couple of grams, 2 or 3 grams, just by reducing the size of the Y leads, but that, just under 10 grams, all that I've just removed, basically. Like you might say, oh, was it worth it? Was it worth it? Yeah, every gram, losing every single gram possible makes a difference. So, right, that's that side done. Now I've got to do it all over again for the other side, but I've only got to do the servos bit because obviously I've already done the Y lead. So I'll do that off camera. I need to change the battery on my camera as well because I'm down to what appears to be around about 15%, so it'll probably cut out anyway. So yeah, I'll come back after I've done the other side, guys. Right guys, what's been a split second for you, it's been like an hour and a half for me. I've wired both sides now of the nozzle harnesses. I've got them done with the Y leads on, and I've also made that, I don't know if you can see that, I've got 2 sets of plugs there with 2 leads in, and that's basically for the retracts. I've got white, red and black cables which I'll be using for the mains, and I've got orange, red and brown cables which I'll use for the wings, basically. But that's my Y lead that I've made up for the retracts, and it weighs literally 6 grams. The 4 Y leads that I would have had to have used to do that weighed nearly 30 grams, so I've saved a hell of a lot of weight just by doing that. It took me ages to do it. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to refit the servos back in to the airframe, and then I'm going to line up the nozzles, get the aircraft level and line up the nozzles, and I'm going to make sure that they're 90 degrees, and there's a specific way I'm going to do that. I'll show you in a bit. It's basically helicopter technology. But I'll stick you on time-lapse mode while I refit these all back in, and then when it comes to like lining up the nozzles, I'll come back to you normally. See you in a bit. Okay guys, that's all the servos all fitted in now with the nozzles, and everything's all tightened up and made nice and tidy-ish. I'm just going to show you how I got to work out exactly 90 degrees to the fuselage regarding the nozzles pointing down, and I've got it basically using this. I did say to you, using helicopter technology. This is a pitch gauge. Those of you who fly helicopters know exactly what it is, but I basically put the pitch gauge on the table, and then I don't know if you can see this because it's going to be really difficult with me holding the camera, and well, how about that, it's already at 0. Can you see that? It's registered 0, right? But anyway, set that to 0, and then I made this piece of plywood which is flat, dead flat. This wing surface here is also dead flat, so I put it on the wrong way, put it on that way. Was that the way it went, or was it that way? I can't remember how it went now. Hold on a second, bear with me fellas. There we go, that's it, right. And then what I did was, knowing that that was 0 and flat on the table, put that onto there, and how about that, 0.1, okay. And then I made this little piece of Depron with plywood on it, and because the bottom of the actual Harrier's fin is tapered, I moved it either backwards or forwards so that it lowered or lifted the Harrier up until it's centered. And there you go. I don't know if you can see that. I've just moved it back towards the nose a little bit, so it's dropped the tail down, and that's now centered. And with that like that, then what I did is, I can't find it now, there it is. And then you can see all these, I don't know if I can get close enough with the, you can see all these little marks that are on the nozzles here. That bit there is basically, it's the center line of the nozzle. And you might not be able to pick it up on the camera, but when it's 3D printed, actually there's a tiny little recess, raised area, not where it's joined, but it's like the dead center. And then what I did was basically got the set square on the table, I don't know if you can see that because it's a clear one, and then lined them up as they are there to the points on the top, which you can see at the back hopefully. Let's see, these little marks just there, that's the dead center, there's the dead center of the nozzle, and that's the dead center of the actual nozzle there. And with the set square sitting flat, that was how I got my 90 degrees. So when the wing, there you go on that one as well, so when the wing is level in flight and those nozzles are actually 90 degree down, they are 90 degrees to the base of that wing, so that'll keep the fuselage level. And that's how I did it. Right guys, I'm going to try and get, the next thing now is to try and get the retracts all done. Like I said, I wanted to make it look, because it's not actually going to coming in forward fast, the suspension that's on it isn't really required. I could probably take the springs off, or the rubber rings which they use for the suspension on these, and reduce the actual like compression, should we say, because they are quite hard. But I'm just going to see if it collapses when it has the weight on it, to test it. So I'm going to fit it all together, stick you guys in time-lapse mode while I do it. I don't believe that. I really don't believe that, guys. The mains, the front nose wheel and the main wheel, when connected up, they go down, and when you return the switch, the mains go up and then the wings come down. So the polarity on the wing retracts is wrong. not what I've done, it's just for some reason they're working differently. And the only way I'm going to get around that is by putting the wings retracts on a separate channel and reversing them, or getting a servo reverser and using that to reverse the channels, which is going to be a pain in the butt. I'm wondering if I reverse the polarity on the circuit board on the retracts, do you reckon that would reverse it? What do you think? I'm going to have to look into this one, guys, and see what I can come up with. Bear with me. Right, guys and guyettes, after scratching my head for nearly an hour and a half thinking how the hell I was going to get away with this, I had no choice but to go down the using 2-channel option. I was hoping I wouldn't have to do that, but after communicating with one of the fellow club members regarding how I could get around it, he suggested it to me. So I've got them sussed now. I've got both going up and down. So I've got the mains. I need to tighten that up because that's loose. So there we now have the mains and the wings coming down at the same time. So happy days, go lucky. Right, we can go back to what we was originally looking at now, which is, let's see, Yakida and, oh, stuck. Let's move that out of the way. I've repositioned the camera to get you more level with the aircraft at the moment. That needs to have the what's it putting in it as well. There you go. Right, we are sitting on, let's move that around so you can see. We are sitting on all 4 sets of wheels. However, I don't want it to be that way. Now that one has collapsed, so lifting that one up, yeah, see that one's collapsing. Now when I have it down on the ground, I want all the wheels to have collapsed under the weight. So is that enough? So if that's down, that one's down, and that one's down as well. Yeah, that's it, I think. Is that down? No, there we go. Yeah, I think the wheels on the ends, those rods can definitely, yeah, they can definitely come up a little bit, because I don't want them all the way down. I want them to be pretty much like that. So I reckon I've got to take about, what do you reckon, guys, about an inch, take about an inch off this, something like that. I think you've just been staring underneath the table then, haven't you? Yeah, I'll take about an inch off this rod here, and then that way when it's underweight and the wheels collapse as I want them to, we should be good. Right, okay, that's what I'm going to do. But how about that? It's actually sitting on its wheels for the first time, and doesn't it look good? Right, I digress. Let's carry on. Those that are the observant type may have noticed that I've only put 2 screws in, correct? The reason I've only put 2 screws in is because this is not going to be travelling along the ground at 90 miles an hour. So I just need them to be held in. So those 2 screws that I've screwed in on both sides are more than enough to hold this. That's the wire rattling, not the wings. So we've got them cut down now. I think I'm going to have to remove a couple of the O-rings on the undercarriages, because I think they're still a little bit stiff. Like I say, I want it to collapse like the real aircraft does when it lands, because I say, because we're not going forward yet. I don't need it, and it's more weight that I can remove. I am actually debating on hooking up the flaps as well and attaching them to the gimbals, but because of what I've done with the undercarriage, mixing the two separate channels to get them to go the right way, it means I've got to make two more of these little Y leads, these little tiny jobbers. So I'll do that off camera, guys, and I'll be back in a bit. Okay, Y lead's done now for the main and the outer wing panel retracts. I've been making, this is my little notepad, I've been making some notes on here. So I've got channels 1, 2, 3 and 4. Channel 1 will be throttle. That's going to be a combination, maybe whether it's a Y lead or not, I don't know yet until I try the KK2 board. But throttle will basically be channel 1. Then ailerons will be channel 2, which will basically relieve the thrust from the two outer wing panels. Elevator on channel 3, which will be the thrust and for the pitch on the two front and back fans. Rudder, which is channel 4, that's actually going to be these two servos that operate these nozzles that twist them from side to side. So that's going to be my yaw, effectively, not the rudder at the back. They're going to generate the yaw to rotate it on its axis. On channel 4. Channel 5, I've got right flap and right flap and right nozzles, or should I say starboard flap, starboard nozzles on channel 5. Channel 6 will be starboard port flap and nozzles. Channel 7 will be the gear channel for the outer wing panels. And channel 8, hang on a minute, I read that wrong. You know why? Because I've got my wrong glasses on. No wonder I couldn't bloody read it. Try it again. Channel 1 throttle, channel 2 aileron, channel 3 elevator, channel 4 rudder, channel 5 main gear, nose and rear one, nose and centre main gear, channel 5. Channel 6 will be the port, nozzle and flap control. Channel 7 will be the gear for the wings. Channel 8 will be right flap and right sided nozzles, or starboard nozzles. That's where we are at the moment, which leaves me channel 9 and channel 10 on the receiver for the possibility to me of having to mix the main throttle from the main 90mm EDF to the 4 outer fans as well. So it's looking pretty damn good so far. What I'm going to do now though, I'm going to take the wings back off the aircraft, retract the undercarriage up, take the wings back off the aircraft, and then I'm going to have a go at the flaps, and I want to see if I can get the flaps working and the nozzles working, and then I'm going to call it a day, I think, because the time's starting to get on. I've been on this all day, and I've done a fair bit, although you haven't. I don't know how long the video is going to be, but you'll know watching it. But yeah, that's the next stage, so I'm going to throw you into time-lapse mode when I do that, guys. Okay guys, now those of you with a keen eye may have noticed that the old Cameroon quality picture has stopped flickering. RC Helicopter Richard is up here. I've mentioned him before. You want to go and check out his channel, guys. He's an awesome 3D pilot. He uses a GoPro as well, and he's just showed me how to get rid of it. Basically my GoPro was set on 60 Hz. We just got into the preferences, changed to 50 Hz, and jobs are good and no more flickering. But it has changed the resolution. I was shooting at 60 frames per second, going to 50 Hz, has changed to 50 frames per second. So if the quality of the video is deteriorated, I do apologise, guys. It's the last bit of the video anyway, so we'll have to see how it comes out. But anyway, I'm going to put the flap servos in like I said before, and hopefully I can hook them up to the nozzles and they'll be rotating according to how they should be, and I'll use the radio to do it. That's my receiver that I'm using. I'm using a 10-channel telemetry receiver, and like I say, with all the things that I've done at the moment, I've used 8 channels, so I've got 2 channels left spare in case I need to do any more, like extra channels for something else like mixing or something. But we'll give that a shot and I'll put you into time-lapsey mode. Here we go. I tell you what guys, you couldn't write it. Right, looking at the configuration of the nozzles and the configuration of the flaps, I knew that these were going to have to be put in two separate channels, okay, and these were going to be Y-leaded to those nozzles. So I'd have the starboard flap and the starboard nozzle together, the port flap and the port nozzle together. Guess what, it don't work. Well, it does, but they're the wrong way. So if I connect the starboard nozzle to the Y lead and the starboard flap to the Y lead, when the nozzle goes to the 90-degree position and the flap should come down, the flap goes up because of the servo setup, right? The same with the other side. Starboard nozzle, yeah, when that goes down, the flap goes up. So if I swap them over, what's happened, so I've got to have the starboard nozzles, sorry, the port nozzles and the starboard flap hooked into the same Y lead, and the port flap and the starboard nozzles hooked into the same lead to get them to go the right way. Then they've got to go into the separate channels to be reversed. Wow, yeah, like I say, you can't write it, okay? So let's I could cry. Let's carry on. Put you back in lapsey timing mode. Well, that was long-winded, but we've done it. I've done it. Right, so I've now got the servo on the starboard side marked up with a red label. That's because that has got to go to the port side nozzle lead, which is marked red, which is in red. That way then that corresponds with that. So I don't know if you can see the nozzle, the flaps are down, the nozzles are down. So if I rotate it so that the flaps go up, the nozzle should go back. And there you go, see? So fully back, the nozzles, fully up flap, the nozzles are pushing that way to make the arrow go forward. And then fully down flap, the nozzles are back at 90 degrees for the hover. Okay, and then if you look at this one, on this side, I've got, oh, running out of room, I've got the green servo, green flap going, which is the port flap, going to the green cable for the nozzles, okay, which are the starboard nozzles. So when those flaps go down, or up I should say, the nozzles are back to give it forward flight, as you can see, hopefully. And then down flap, I then get 90 degrees of downward nozzle. So it's worked. Now the only thing I've got to do now is both of these channels I've got to go into separate, both of these leads have got to go into separate channels, and as I've got it here, nozzle and flap left into channel 6, nozzle flap right, channel 8. So I've just got to put those, got to put one into the flap channel and then mix it with auxiliary 3 on the receiver and the transmitter. Then I can reverse the flap one, so that way they'll all work in the same direction. Hallelujah. It's been a long day, guys. It really has been a long day. Oh dear. Well, that has been a long day. It has been a long day. But we've done more progress. We have got a lot further with the Harrier again today. I got done what I wanted to do, or did. Another big leap forward. I think now the next thing basically will be fitting the KK2 board, and to do that I've got to make this mule up, get it all sorted out. But it's coming along, guys. I hope it's not been too boring for you. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you watching the channel. Stick around. We've got more to come on this. Stick around for part 4. Do like, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell, all that malarkey. And I think we're going to call it a day on that. It's been pretty intense work. So yeah, hopefully I'll get another video out in the next couple of days with the stabilizer and everything worked out on this, and that way it's too far to go before we can actually take her off. So once again, thanks guys, and I'll see you next time.